Yes, I believe that it is mandatory as a Rotarian, as much as you support Rotary, that you should support our foundation, because they're really two halves of the same equation, and what it means to be a Rotarian means to support the foundation. So I'm really excited to share some insights into the foundation with you this evening. I'm going to go through a little bit of the history and of course the various projects and ways that you can give to the foundation as individuals and also as a club. So the mission of our foundation, as you know, the tagline of the foundation is doing good in the world. But the mission statement is really about enabling Rotarians, and that's really a key part of the mission. So the Rotary Foundation is not something that is separate from us, some foreign thing that we don't have anything to do with. The work of the foundation is done by Rotarians. The support given by the foundation is given to Rotarians across the world. So the mission is really about enabling Rotarians to do the work that we signed on to do when we became Rotarians, whether that's in peace and goodwill, conflict resolution, or whether it's through health projects or education and literacy, poverty alleviation, all of the different projects that we do to make the world a more peaceful, sustainable, stable place to live and to exist. And so it's important to understand that the mission of the foundation is all about supporting the work of Rotary clubs and the work of Rotarians. And all of the different projects we do lead towards, and the goal is for a more peaceful world. You know, we know about conflict in our own countries, in our own hemisphere, but of course it is happening all around the world. At the end of the Second World War, it was really declared that there would be no more wars. This would be the war to end all wars. And sadly, war has never stopped. And so a big part of the work that we do is really about building more peaceful communities, because peace exists where there is an absence of conflict, but there's also healthy families, healthy communities, educated, literate women and girls, you know, a population that is not fighting against disease. So that there are so many ways that what we do as Rotary clubs on the ground in our local communities supports this global mission. So our Rotary Foundation actually began in the 1900s, and the outgoing president of Rotary International, a gentleman by the name of Arch Klump, proposed setting up an endowment fund. The very first contribution was made $26.50, and then the endowment fund was renamed about 10 years later to be called the Rotary Foundation. The very first grant that was ever given was then in 1930, and this was given to the International Society for Crippled Children. Of course, we don't use that terminology anymore, but it's so important to understand that this started with $26.50 and 100 years ago. And look how far we've come. And I'll share with you some of the projects and the work that's been done. So it really began with the idea that we have a legacy as Rotarians. So yes, we do work today in our community. Could I ask people to mute, please? Thank you. I know what Dr. Rowley is saying is important, but if we get through this quickly, then we can go and see what he's up to. So yes, so it's important to understand that this was begun as an endowment, as a legacy for Rotary and our organization, and what we as Rotarians leave behind, the legacy of the work that we've done locally, regionally, internationally. And the purpose of doing good in the world from the very beginning was our mission. So, okay, let's go to the next slide. Rotary Foundation, it's important to recognize and to share with anybody that you're trying to get to give money to the foundation, is that it is a 4-star rated charity. There's been many studies done about how charities spend the money that is given to them. And unfortunately, many NGOs globally do not get very good ratings. You know, you may give, for every dollar you give to an NGO, 50, 60 cents goes towards administration or staff salaries or travel or what have you. With the Rotary Foundation, 90 cents, 99 cents of every dollar actually goes to the projects and the communities that Rotarians execute. So it's important to be able to confidently say that the Rotary Foundation is a 4-star rated charity, one of the top rated charities in the world in terms of the dollar value. So for every dollar you give, anybody gives, corporate, individual, clubs, it really does get to the people that we're trying to help. So it by far exceeds many of the standards that are set by organizations like Charity Navigator, which are independent and rate various charities around the world. And Rotary has consistently met this 4-star rating. So we have never really veered from our purpose and managed the foundation in a way to ensure that the majority of the money that's collected goes back to the communities that we serve. So this is how the spending has been sort of distributed over the past few years since the beginning of the Rotary Foundation. As you can see, this is really in line with what was our 6 areas of focus. Now, of course, we have 7, but the amount of money that has been distributed is quite staggering. You know, nearly $60 million, and this is US, of course, given to disease prevention, 15 million to water projects, 9 million for maternal, and this keeps growing and growing. The Rotary Foundation has really made a significant impact around the world in terms of the dollar value of its projects, the community reach it's had. And it's the more we give, the more we can get. The foundation is sustained by us, and the money that we give to the foundation enables the foundation and other Rotary clubs and our project partners and so on to actually do the work in these areas of focus, which, as you know, are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So guys, can you please mute? Sorry, it's very distracting. I promise I won't be too long. Our projects are aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And if you go and you do some reading about the UN and Rotary and our relationship, it goes back almost to the beginning of the UN. We're one of the longest collaborative organizations with the UN. And so the work that we do really supports that global mission of eradicating polio, empowering women and girls, making sure everybody has access to clean water, all of these various things that the UN Sustainable Development Goals set out. So there are 3 different ways that the Rotary Foundation splits its funding and how it spends its money. There is an annual fund, which is about projects today, now being executed around the Rotary world. Then there is our endowment fund, which is really about making commitments to the future of the foundation and its long-term sustainability. And then, of course, the Polio Plus Fund, which, as you know, is one of our key goals as Rotarians, as an organization, is the elimination of polio. So let's have a little bit of a look at each of these. When we give to the annual fund, and this is where most clubs will give their contributions to the Rotary Foundation, the donation is invested and actually comes back to the clubs through our what we call district designated funds. So when you apply for a district grant, for example, as a Rotary club, that money is based on, or what we have to give you as a club from our district grant money is based on what the clubs in our district gave 3 years ago. So this year we are spending what was donated 3 years ago, a portion of what was donated. So when you give to the annual fund, the money is split between the World Fund, which is the global projects, and then district funds, which means money that can come back to the district for our clubs to execute their projects. And it's important to understand then that when you give, you can actually also benefit back from the return from your donation. So it doesn't just go out into the world and you never see it again. You do have the opportunity to benefit from what the entire district has given 3 years ago to the Rotary Foundation. Our global polio eradication, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on polio because I know we all saw VP Raj talk about polio recently and as part of Foundation Month. But it's important to understand that we are part of this global mission. So it's not just Rotary, although of course Rotary plays a huge role, but we've partnered with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, of course, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We're a founding partner of this global initiative. And as a result of our work and the work of all of our partners, polio has been reduced by 99.9% across the world since we started in 1979. And unfortunately, it can be difficult to persuade people in countries where there is no polio to keep giving to this initiative. But polio is a plane ride away. You know, we here get vaccinated for polio as children. It's part of our mandatory vaccination as a child, but in many countries, they are still very vulnerable to polio. And it is truly a horrendous disease. And we are so close, this close to eradicating it. We just need that final push. So as a result of the work that we have done and our partners have done, there are now 4 out of 6 World Health regions certified polio-free. And what happens is a country or region has to go for 3 years without a single case to be declared polio-free by the World Health Organization. Unfortunately, Afghanistan and Pakistan still have reported cases, only 1 or 2, but because it's so contagious, because it's so easily spread, we have to do everything we can to stamp it out. And I can say, just on a sidebar, there was a lot of concern when the Taliban took back Afghanistan in August of this year, that they would not be collaborating with Rotarians, the health workers, the ministries and so on, with the polio vaccine, because there was a lot of resistance by certain religious leaders that this was a drug being given to sterilize Muslim boy children. And there was a lot of rumors and, of course, conspiracy theories and fake news. But according to our polio partners, the Taliban have been working with us and they have been supporting the polio vaccinations in Afghanistan since August. So fingers crossed, with their support, we can actually get Afghanistan to a polio-free state. Of course, the coronavirus has had a massive impact on our ability to deliver the vaccine and do all of the different work that we had planned for polio eradication, even just raising funds for polio. Many of the campaigns were paused. Many of the health workers were redeployed to do COVID testing and now, of course, COVID vaccinations. But we are still continuing a number of activities, and you know, COVID doesn't seem to be any end in sight, unfortunately. So we're continuing to track and monitor polio cases, making sure the vaccine is available to the communities that need it, providing support. So there is still work going on despite COVID, but many of the health workers who traditionally would have been delivering the polio vaccine are now, of course, working on the COVID vaccination campaigns in their countries, India and some of these larger communities where they're still having to go out to rural communities to deliver the vaccine. But there's a number of risks if we don't keep up the polio vaccination campaign. Of course, children, the vulnerability of children increases, the number of cases increases. So it's important that we do try and keep a lid on it so that we reach our target. Another fantastic project under the annual fund is our Rotary Peace Fellowships. And of course, we have a fantastic peace chair in our district, Rotarian Debbie from South Trinidad, who's a real advocate and a great resource if you want any information at all about peace fellowships. And Rotary has partnered with leading universities in 8 different countries to provide master's and certificate programs in peace building. This is such an important part of the work that we do to really educate young people particularly, but it's not only young people, but to educate people to go back to their communities and then build more peaceful and more resilient communities. But also just participating in the program by itself connects you with people from other parts of the world that you may never have met. So we're building a network of conflict resolvers, peace builders around the world committed to trying to reduce and prevent conflict. And this is happening now in more than 100 countries. Every year, about 130 Peace Fellows are chosen. It's a very competitive process, but it's a fully sponsored education program, and you could go to one of the 8P centers and spend some time with these wonderful people from around the world. So let's talk a little bit about grants, which is one of the main ways in which clubs can get money from the foundation. The first is our district grants. And as you know, I'm currently our district grant chair and probably will be next year as well. And district grants are, the nice thing about district grants is that they're managed by the district. So we really have that immediate connection with the club, the ability to make a decision, ask for funds, and then disperse funds. The projects are typically smaller and short term. They are typically done within a particular Rotary year. This is not a presentation on district grants, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just to let you know that if you're thinking about applying for next year, because this year's already closed, it is recommended that you align your projects with the areas of focus, the 7 areas of focus, and of course that you do a community needs assessment to make sure that whatever you're spending in the community actually meets their needs. Rotarians love to go into a community and say, oh, we're going to build a library or we're going to build a playground, but really what they want is a computer lab. Or, you know, you have to talk to the community to make sure that the money that we're spending is actually going to meet their needs. Then we have global grants, and these are much bigger grants. This is projects that are worth $30,000 US or more. They have to demonstrate sustainability. So this is things like knowledge transfer, skills transfer, making sure the community can run the project once Rotary has left. It's mandatory alignment with the areas of focus, and you must have an international partner. And these projects are managed by the foundation. The district is involved because, of course, we help you. The governor has to sign off on the application and so on. But the fund disbursement, the reporting, all of that is done to the Rotary Foundation and not to the district, unlike district grants. We do have a few in our district currently in progress, and they're very large projects in terms of the dollar value, but they are really impactful. The key thing with a global grant, though, is you have to have really strong stewardship resources. You have to make sure whoever in your club is part of this team applying for managing the global grant, that your reporting, the management of the funds, all of that is done really well, because Rotary will expect and ask for proper reporting. And if you don't meet those requirements, not only can your club be disqualified or even disbanded, but the district can be disqualified from applying for future grants. So you have to make sure that you have all of the resources in place when you're applying for a global grant to meet their reporting needs. And then we have what are called scale grants. These are a fairly new type of grant, and these are really big projects. The foundation awards about $2 million US every year, and they select one project for 3 to 5 years. So you may have a project of this scale. And of course, it is a competitive process. So you do have to show that there is a sustainable impact. There is measurable deliverables in the project. But the nice thing about the scale grants is that you don't need an international partner. But of course, Rotary always recommends partnering. So it may be local partners, other NGOs, for example, the government, whomever. But Rotary must be in the leadership role. So, you know, you can think big. You can think about a 2 million, what is that, 14 million TT dollars, you know, project over 3 to 5 years. But as I say, it's a competitive process. So if you're interested in that, you need to go and do some more reading and get more information, because Rotary is only giving one grant a year out of all the 33,000 clubs that may wish to apply. So how do you build foundation success in your club? How do you make the foundation part of your everyday Rotary conversations? Well, you have to build a foundation team. Of course, you must have a Rotary Foundation chairman who should have a small team of Rotarians and Rotaractors, please. Rotaractors are now going to be eligible for grants, so they need to be very much engaged in the conversation. They have to start giving to the foundation also to be eligible for grants. So make sure your Rotaractors are fully immersed in foundation. The team then sets goals for the year, both in terms of education and training, as well as giving, and these have to be uploaded to Rotary Club Central. You need to inspire your members to give. You know, you may have new members who don't know much about the foundation, old members who've been giving for years and totally fed up now. And it's important to really remind people about the purpose, which is why I started with the mission, the purpose of the foundation, because they are supporting us and our work and the work of all Rotary clubs. And the other thing that's helpful to get your members to give is to make it easy for them, provide them with the resources. And I will share a couple of things with you, but make it easy for the club's members to give to the foundation. Of course, we do it all online now, but it doesn't have to be online. So there's a step-by-step process for you as a club to infuse the foundation into the work of your board, your committees, your projects, your calendar for the year. Maybe a percentage of everything you raise goes to the foundation. You set goals at the beginning of every year, and every quarter you remind your members where you are against the targets that you've set. You have fundraisers, you have webinars, all of these different things. But it's important that it is not an afterthought. It is really an integral part of your Rotary calendar. So as I said, there are a number of ways to give. You can set up a standing order. Many of us do this every year automatically on my credit card, on Rotary Direct. I get an email that says, thank you for giving to the foundation. I don't even have to think about it. It's done every year. And of course, the website offers you a number of opportunities. Rotary Direct is a recurring giving program. So you can just set it up and forget about it, set it and forget it. You can give to your Rotary Foundation chair. That person should be encouraging every member of the club to give every year. I would hope that at the very minimum, every member of your board has given to the foundation this year, and the club can give as well, of course. You can post a donation if that's the way you like to do it. And you can also look at corporate matching gifts. This is something that I haven't explored a lot of, I must be honest, but I think it's a great idea to speak to some of your corporate partners about giving when they do give. So let's say, for example, you have a corporate partner who gives $100 to one of your Rotary projects. $50 may go to the project in your community and $50 to the Rotary Foundation to share with them how they're part of a global mission to build a more peaceful world, eradicate polio, etc. So you can have a conversation with some of your corporate partners to see how what they give you maybe can be split in that way, or 25, 75, whatever works for you, but that they're also part of this global mission we have, especially when you think about ending polio and the fact that so many organizations support that as a global mission. I think that really gives corporate companies that you work with a much bigger sense of the impact that they can have. So I'm not just giving to a project in St. Augustine or Pinal or, you know, in Barbados or wherever it is. I'm actually giving to as well to help this global organization build a more peaceful world. I think that's incredibly powerful. And there's this wonderful thing on Amazon Smile. I thought it was worth putting up because it's Christmas and a lot of us are shopping online and sending gifts to relatives abroad and so on. And Amazon has this option to select a charity where 0.5% of eligible purchases go to the Rotary Foundation. So it is there, it's available. It may only seem like a small amount, but if we all do it, it will very quickly add up. So you can just go to smile.amazon.com and sign up so that 0.5% of any of your eligible purchases goes towards the Rotary Foundation. So I did this a few years ago. It's a nice, easy way. Again, set it and forget it. So you're just constantly giving a little bit, and all of that makes a difference. Now, in order to recognize and appreciate the Rotarians who give to the foundation, and even non-Rotarians, because of course anybody can give to the foundation. Of course, it doesn't have to be a Rotarian. As you know, we have a number of different levels of giving. Many of us are familiar with the Paul Harris Fellow, which is recognition for $1,000 US. But there are a number of additional levels on top of that. We are encouraging, in fact, we have been for some time, members of our district to become members of the Paul Harris Society, which means that you pledge to give $1,000 a year. So getting one Paul Harris is great, fantastic, amazing, well done, but we really want you to give on a more consistent basis. So you can set it up to give $1,000 a year, and after 10 years, you become a major donor. Now, you could just give $10,000 today and become a major donor, of course, but for many people, it's easier to give over a period of time. So there are different levels of recognition, and of course, you receive lovely pins and plaques and all those good things. You can, of course, award a Paul Harris for somebody else, a member of your community. Our club does this quite regularly. As you may know, we recently gave the Chief Medical Officer of Trinidad and Tobago a Paul Harris in recognition of his work with COVID. So you can use the opportunity to give to the foundation to recognize and appreciate other members of society who you think have, made a difference. If you are lucky enough to be able to give $250,000 US or more, there might be some, I see Vincent smiling, so maybe he's on his way to becoming a member of the Arch Clump Society. But Arch Clump, of course, is the man who began the foundation. And this is a very prestigious society. You get your photographs hung in Rotary World headquarters. If you've ever been to any of the international conventions, they have special breakfasts and special invitation-only events for members of the Arch Clump Society. Of course, there's lots of pins and lapels and all this sort of thing. So it's really incredibly prestigious. I don't know how many members there are, actually. I could probably find that out, but I didn't think to ask. But of course, a lot of them are American. But there's a lot from Asia as well, a lot of Japanese Rotarians from Korea. So, I don't think we have any in the Caribbean. I could be wrong, not in our district. I don't know, about 70-20, but we have a lot of major donors. Well, I say a lot, we have a few major donors, but we don't yet have anybody in the Arch Clump Society, but something to aspire to perhaps. Then we have what's called a benefactor. And this is where you basically either give a gift to the permanent fund. Now, remember I said the permanent fund is different. This is money that is basically invested for the future. This is not spent right away, unlike the annual fund, which comes back to us in grants and our polio work and scholarships and so on. So the permanent fund is the long-term investment fund of the foundation. And you can, in your will, leave money to the Rotary Foundation and therefore become what is called a benefactor. You have to let them know there's a form to fill in. But if you've got miserable children and you don't want them to get any of your money when you die, you could leave it to the foundation. Or 3 ex-wives and you don't want them to get any of the money, you could leave it to the foundation. So it's a nice way of, again, just part of your legacy being to support the foundation into the future. And then there is the Bequest Society. So this is really taking your benefactor to the next level. This is gifts of $10,000 US or more in your estate planning. Now, in the US, there are certain tax write-offs and things, I think, for giving and leaving money in your estate to charities. I don't think we have that here. But again, it's a very prestigious group of people to belong to. Of course, you pledge this before you die, and up to, $1 million, and you become a member of the 6 Diamond Circle, So I don't think anybody in the District 7030 is yet level 6. Some of us are level 1. I'm not including myself in that. I am a member of the Benefactor Society, but not the Bequest Society. But again, you may have, some people leave it to their cats, some people leave it to their girlfriends. Maybe you could think about leaving some of it to the foundation. And this is all about a legacy for the future of Rotary and the future work that we want to do after we've gone. So any couples or individuals who give more than $1 million are invited to join what's called the Legacy Society. And this is where you get listed annually. So there's a lot of recognition. You don't have to do it just for the applause and the praise and look how marvelous I am. But many people like to be acknowledged and like their gift or their planned giving to be recognized. The Legacy Society has a number of very exclusive events. Again, a significant majority, I am sure, would be from the United States and Canada, but there are Rotarians around the world who are members of the Legacy Society. So if you have $1 million US lying around, you can pledge it to the foundation and become a member of the Legacy Society. And the Paul Harris Society I mentioned, so this is sort of bringing us a bit more back down to our spending levels now, is $1,000 a year. You can set it up on your credit card or set up a reminder. It's actually only, I think it works out at is $83 a month US, so you can set it up monthly. It's a really good idea to just set it up automatically so you don't have to think about it. Your foundation chair doesn't have to beg you every month to give. Have you given? It's, you know, we see, because of course we see what clubs give at the foundation district team level. And, you know, typically what happens is on the 30th of June, coming down to, you know, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., clubs are scrambling to make their contributions. Do it early, get it done. If you pledge to give $1,000 to the foundation Polio Plus and $1,000 to the annual fund, raise the money, put it in the account, and you're done. But think about the Paul Harris Society. It's a personal pledge to support the foundation. And it really, as I say, after 10 years, you become a major donor. We don't have many of those. We need more of those. But it's just your own personal way of making a commitment to the foundation to give every year. And you can encourage others, of course, to do the same. When you become a member of the Paul Harris Society, you receive this flag that goes underneath your Paul Harris pin. And it's really only for those who qualify. It's not meant to be worn by anybody else. As I said, it does enable you after 10 years to become a major donor. And there's also Paul Harris Society events, lots of fellowship. There are many, many members of the Paul Harris Society, but it's in our district still quite an exclusive group. And I would love to see every club in our district have at least 2 or 3 members of the Paul Harris Society. The Rotary Club of Georgetown did that a couple of years ago. They made a real push, and I think they got 4 members to become Paul Harris Society members, and it's fantastic. So we just see that regular giving to the foundation to support the work that we're doing around the world. Now, you have a lot of support as Rotarians. If you have questions about Rotary Foundation, all of its various projects, funds, all of it. There's, of course, the support at RI headquarters. We have a number of great Rotary support personnel, from Brian through to Renee, and they're always available. Brian is particularly helpful. And then at the district level, you have myself and, of course, our foundation chair, PDG Milton, and we're both here to answer any questions you have. If you want to get ready to apply for a grant next year and think about how you can do that, then, you know, let's have that conversation now, so that when it comes to PETS in April in Barbados, your incoming president, your incoming leadership team is not scrambling to get the MOU signed or to get things ready, but you're prepared. You know, we run businesses, we're all kind of captains of industry, and yet sometimes when it comes to running Rotary clubs, you really have to wonder, it's all very last minute and haphazard. So have a plan. How are we going to give to the foundation? How are we going to raise money for the foundation this year? What's our plan going to be? And of course, for next year as a Rotary club with your new you have your elections coming up, your incoming president should be thinking about, as part of their program, the Rotary Foundation in everything that you do. So I'm going to end there. I'm very grateful for your attention and your time. I'm happy to take some questions. And of course, I would be happy to email the presentation if anybody would like a copy. Thank you very much.
3,000 workers.